time to get some old school power up in here. Check this out. Now, we're getting the car ready for no name nationals, right? But, you know, there's a few things going against us at this point in terms of actually racing, right? And, you know, beating L&A Autoworks, that's my main goal. Taking that redneck down, right? You know, Mr. Spray Paint over there. But in order to do that, like, we got the nitrous on the car, sure, but I can't use it because I don't have a fire suit, right? So we are all motor for this deal. And, you know, we know that the motor isn't exactly the strong suit of the whole car. So we are going to have to really step things up and start getting some more power into this motor. You know, see what I mean? We gotta start doing some, you know, little things to it to try to up the ante, right? So we can toast L&A on the racetrack. One of the ways to do it is by introducing cold fuel. Now, there's a few different ways to do it. This is one of them. Check this out. And there she is, the peak of old school ingenuity, the cool can. Now, obviously, this is not the end all be all way of making one. No, this is the cheapest, most bare bones cool can configuration you could probably possibly do. Okay, but all it is you got your fuel coming in. It coils all the way down. I got 10 feet of copper tubing in here, coiled around. Comes out into your normal fuel, whatever you got going on, right? And lastly, you fill it with ice or dry ice. You know, dry ice works better, but ice is, you know, more accessible and cheaper. I did have dry ice in here, that's why I put the holes, because as soon as I put the lid on, it started to squeal, you know, because the, you know, gas is trying to escape out these holes. I just, you know, to quiet her down. But that's it. That's all it is. You're trying to get the fuel as cold as possible before it goes into the carburetor. But why is that? Well, that's because cold fuel makes power. It's not too hard to see why. You put cold fuel in, the cold fuel atomizes in the intake through the carburetor. All that cold little, you know, mist sucks the heat out of the air as it goes down the intake and makes a lot denser charge and a colder charge, and that coldness actually will affect the combustion chamber too. It'll pull heat out of the combustion chamber, making that work a lot better too. So cold fuel adds power. You know, not only does it make more power, but check this out. Let me fill up the can and let me show you something. It'll even cool down your engine. I mean, this thing runs 170 religiously, and on a hot day like today, it's usually just a little above, about 190. She's just a tick below 170 right now. So, I mean, you know, cold gas, right? Cool can. Makes it so when you're driving it on a hot day, it feels like you're driving it on a nice cool day, right? Densens the charge, makes a little more power, you know, a little snappier, and it keeps the engine cooler, you know. I mean, that's always a plus too, having cold gas do that. How cold does this setup actually get it though? Now, I mean, the incoming, that's hot, but going to the carburetor, it's not hot, it's not cold, it's like maybe warm, right? So it's not like it's turning it to ice or, oh yeah, there's another problem, it runs out right away. But it's not like it's making the fuel ice cold, but it's helping. Now, if you're going to make your own cool can, here's a couple of things you got to keep in mind. Insulation and volume, okay? The more fuel line you have wrapped inside there, the better it'll work, because the longer exposure it has to the cold, the longer, duration of time the ice has to pull heat out of the fuel. So the bigger it is, the better it is, okay? And insulation. Like my setup right now has 0 insulation. You want something really snazzy? Get like a cooler, like an actual like insulated cooler, and put it in there. That would keep it cold way longer. The ice would actually stay cold a lot longer, and it wouldn't like get heat up by the actual engine bay temperature. It would work a lot better for a lot longer, right? So, if you're gonna make your own, make it a lot bigger and make it insulated. Thanks, wind, right? But no, make it bigger and make it more insulated. That thing's gonna work awesome. I think there is a setup that would work slightly better though, but that's for another time, right? Yeah. That's an upcoming project though, so keep in mind we're gonna have cold gas for No Name. Might not be exactly the same setup though. Now, I mean, if you have the power of common sense and deductive reasoning, you might already figure out exactly what we're going to do. But, to the rest of us who don't have those things, you're just going to have to wait, right? Those might be involved. That's the only hint you're getting. Frankly, you should already know. Okay. But, that being said, and I probably don't put it right next to the hottest thing in your engine bay too, the radiator. That might help too. Mine's literally directly next to the radiator, just because it was the most convenient way to route fuel lines for it. So, maybe if you could possibly find a new place for that, you'd be better off too. Any hoozle, we got... what else we got? Well, I mean, aside from improving our... it's pretty much all gone at this point. Besides improving our cool can design, we also, before No Name, have to replace all my rubber fuel line, because apparently that is frowned upon at the racetrack for whatever reason. I don't understand the problem with rubber fuel line. I really don't. I've never had an issue with rubber fuel line in my life. And obviously I've had plenty of experience working with it. It's almost as if rubber fuel line was designed to act as a fuel line. It works so well at doing it. I don't know. Could be, behind the scenes, might have been designed to actually transport fuel from one place of the car to another. I don't. But apparently, it doesn't do a good enough job at getting fuel from point A to point B. So now we gotta replace it with expensive, either braided line or solid line, and with the nitrous and the cool can and this and that, braided line's just going to be easier to route. So I think I got some fittings left over from the Cutlass, so that's the way we're going to have to go about that whole fiasco. What else we got? I'm pretty sure they're going to want me to have a neutral safety switch of some kind too. Again, yet another thing that I've never had an issue with not having. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know, hey, don't start the car in drive or reverse. But apparently there are some people with, like I mentioned earlier, without deductive reasoning. So, now the rest of us have to suffer on that whole thing. I think this shifter might have one on it. I just gotta splice it into the fucking wiring harness somehow, some way, so that I'm gonna have to figure that whole fiasco out too. I don't know who in the world, you know, did what in order to make these rules a thing, but it's just making it difficult to the rest of us who drive these things 99% of the time on the street. And now we have to all of a sudden make this thing a goddamn race car in order to just tootle it down the track once or twice. I don't know. Irritating. Oh, son of a biscuit. I need a helmet too. It's just one thing after another, isn't it? You gotta spend a fortune on fuel fittings. I gotta rewire the whole goddamn starter system just to put in this neutral safety switch that any dumbass would not need, you know, under normal circumstances, you know. And now I need a helmet, which I frankly don't understand, because if I get into an accident, no amount of head protection is going to save me from getting my head guillotined off by the hood, which will come through the windshield and just take my head clean off at that point. So I don't really care if my head is pristine rolling across the floor or nothing, you know. It's for all I care, it could be fairly battered up at that point, you know. I won't miss it, you know. I mean, it's, you know, who are we really kidding here? You think the helmet's going to save me if I get into a 100-mile-per-hour crash on the drag strip? No, not this thing. It's a heavy metal death trap. That's exactly what it's made to do. You know, you don't feel more alive than when you're this close to death. Which this thing, you know, puts me there constantly. So, especially the way I drive it. Anyways, I guess that's it for now, because I got shit to do, and I'll catch you next time.